വളരെ സന്തോഷം ഇവിടെ വന്നതിൽ. നിങ്ങളെ കണ്ടതിൽ വളരെ സന്തോഷം. പിന്നെ എനിക്ക് മലയാളം സംസാരിക്കാൻ കുറച്ചേ ഉള്ളൂ. ടെൻഷൻ കൊണ്ട് മലയാളം നന്നായി വരില്ല. പിന്നെ ക്ഷമിക്കുക, ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് പറയട്ടെ. ഓക്കെ. So I understand that actually the topic is on English education, but they wanted me to speak in Malayalam. So, and I don't know much about English education, but I can tell you from the viewpoint of a researcher and a foreigner who came to study Malayalam, and especially to study the language of the Jews. So I thought I would speak a little bit about Jewish Malayalam, Juda Malayalam, and in a way, in a kind of an awkward way, it is also related with English education. So as they told you, I was living in Kerala for some years, in Kaladi, and in fact I gained my very Pacha Malayalam, Nadan Malayalam from my neighbors in Kaladi. I cannot really speak a very scholarly Malayalam or academic Malayalam, only about food and the climate and things like that. So I will go on speaking in English. But this kind of informal education in Malayalam language was only available through contact with people who do not know English. That is a very important thing, because those who know English at some point, they ക്ഷമ പോവും. എന്നോട് മലയാളത്തിൽ സംസാരിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടി നല്ല ക്ഷമ വേണം. മനസ്സിലായോ? നിർത്തി പറയുള്ളൂ. Yes? So people who know English naturally, after a little bit of time, they are very generous. They would like to converse in Malayalam and help this foreigner study a little bit of Malayalam, but they lose their patience. And this contact with people with Malayalam speakers who do not know English proved even more beneficial when I returned to Israel, and I took a house in a village where Kerala Jews live in Israel. These people migrated from Kerala in the mid-50s, and usually the history and the culture and the religion of Kerala Jews is described through scholars from the United States mainly, or from Europe, who come to Kerala, or sometimes also to Israel, and they get in touch with Kerala Jews who can speak English. And this is the really vast minority of Jews hailing from Kerala. Most of them do not know English. They left Kerala before state education became the norm, and before it became very prestigious to study English. So I went to live in a village with these people, to rent a house. For 2 years I was living there. And as soon as they heard that I can read and write Malayalam and speak a little bit of Malayalam, they got very excited. And they asked me, most of them are already above their 50s and 60s years old, they asked me to teach them the Malayalam script, because many of them left when they were 6, 7, 8 years old. So we started with this funny class. I don't know if you've ever met people who can play a musical instrument without formal study, When you try to teach somebody who plays the guitar or the saxophone or the piano without any formal study of music, you try to teach them the annotations, they won't look at it. They won't understand what is the relation between the annotations of the notes and the rhythms and between what they do with their hands and their ears and their heart. Same thing was with they looked at these Malayalam letters, and we were painfully trying to read words that I know from Malayalam language, formal study, standard Malayalam. And they would look at it and they become very frustrated, and at some point they would say, that's not a Malayalam word. That's not what we say for this item in Malayalam. This is not how you speak Malayalam. And then all of a sudden, a new window people and their peculiar dialect. And after speaking with them for some time, I realized I tried to collect stories, I tried to collect proverbs, and just casual speech. There was some very, very interesting things in their speech. For example, a woman, how does she call her husband? She calls him Mapila, not Partave. How do they refer to mother and father? Baba and Uma. How do they say, yeah? For example, somebody got something, yeah? In the normal Malayalam you would say something like Pulikarna Kiti, right? But in their Malayalam they will say Mupanika Kiti. And I realized there is something to study here. You are laughing because I think you know it from your own Nardan Bhasha, right? Or you heard it from other Nardan Bhasha. And there were also other items coming. When I asked them to narrate about their religious life in their own language, I told them, don't speak Hebrew to me. Speak with me in your language. I am interested in your language. Some of them had difficulties and I was recording it. I have a lot of recordings with me, waiting to be researched from a linguistic point of view. So they would tell me, for example, how do they relate to Tisha B'Av. I don't know if you know this expression in Hebrew, the 9th of the month of Ab. Yeah, that's the holiday in which Jews, during summertime, they fast and they mourn the destruction of the temple. So they don't call it Tisha B'Av like in Hebrew. They call it Shirya Divasam. Now go figure what is Shirya. What is Shirya? What does it mean Shirya Divasam? So I had to boggle my mind around this until I realized that Shirya actually is coming from Tamil. In Tamil, in Sire, there's a root. Sire means to destroy. So when you say Shirya Divasam, in this Jewish Malayalam, you actually relate to the day in which the temple was destroyed, right? Yeah, makes sense? This is my guru, I mean, he has to approve. And on, interesting points like that. So again, I would like to stress that this is coming from people who do not know English. Those who migrated to Israel in the 70s and got formal education and went to English medium schools, they also got formal education in Malayalam, yes? They would tell me, oh, these people Malayalam is bad Malayalam. They don't really speak good Malayalam. And they would speak with me in standard Malayalam and with a lot of English words. So one thing I understood, there is this kind of self-image of speakers. They think that their language is somewhat low, yeah? There is even, this image is also imposed, by scholarship at some point. For example, now I am in German, so people speak about Hoch German, like high German, as opposed to low German, like the Swiss people, they speak low German, in the sense that this is a colloquial language. Or in the scholarship on Arabic, yeah? In Arabic language there is the notion of, they call it diglossia, or diglossia, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, which means you have actually two languages. You have the language which you only write, and it's very standardized and prestigious, and educated people will only speak in that language, in TV, in news broadcasts. But there is the colloquial language, and it changes according to place, to region, to class, to caste. Gender. In Arabic it is known that women pronounce this letter like this and males pronounce that letter like that. Village and urban communities, they speak, and I think the same thing exists also in Malayalam. I know in Tamil it is very, very sharp, very distinct, that you have this kind of two languages. In Arabic they have a name, Amiya and Fusha. Like Fusha would be the literary language, and Amir would be a whole variety of dialects. In Morocco, they would speak like that. In Palestine, they speak like that. In Syria, they speak like that, and on and on. So, again, back to Judah Malayalam. Then I started the research from a linguistic point of view. And I realized also that this has a, implication on the history. That you can study the history of a community from documents like the Kolan copper plates that often do not tell much. Yeah? It's very little that we can infer how the lives of these people were in 9th century. Or you can study history from analyzing the community's own narratives, relating to the narratives of the community, how they see their own history. Or you can look on outside external sources in other languages, yeah, like English, Dutch, Portuguese, Hebrew, Arabic, etc. Or you can listen to the language which the people speak, not to the content, to the language. If somebody says Mumpanika, I hear a form that was retained in the dialect from 13th century Malayalam. If you look in books about the evolution of Malayalam language, you see that this form, Ika, starts being running out of use in the Malayalam we know from inscriptions and from texts in the 13th century. And I must also say, I think it was not very clear from what they told about my own research history, is that I spent 9 months with Venugopala Panikkar, who is one of the greatest Malayalam philologists in Kerala today, in Calicut University. And I have learned a lot from him and his approach, and he taught me a lot about how dialects retain linguistic usage. And how the dialects of Kerala, you can also trace history. And you can also trace, if you look in the Jewish dialect, for example, in the notebooks where they write their songs, there is an interesting replacement of the phoneme Ra. Many communities in Kerala have variations on their Ra, right? So the Jews, instead of saying Kori, they would say Kodi. Not now, but this is how it is written in their notebooks. And it was known, it was something that the Ernakulam people were laughing about the Jews, how they say in their neighborhoods, how they say Bakshanam Kadichu instead of Bakshanam Karichu. Yeah? But now in Israel, they are aware of that in a kind of, how you say, it's like, I call it hyper-correction. Instead of saying words with ta, they correct some words with ta to ra. So I will hear Jews in Israel today who are still speaking Malayalam saying kara instead of kara. Let me tell you a kara. Yeah? So this is the hyper-correction, because I also boggled my mind about these ta-ra substitutions. And I looked in Calicut University, they have this book called The Dialect Map of Kerala. People struggle from the Dravidian Institute, the Institute of Dravidian Languages in Trivandrum. Some scholars struggled to go and collect specimens of words from people from different regions in Kerala. And they have, each volume is dedicated to some caste, like there will be the Irava, Naya, etc. So I looked at one of these volumes and I saw that this variation of words with ra changing to ta is from up north Kerala. And that is an interesting little linguistic fact, because it means that at least some of the Jews at some points were integrated into the dialect of North Kerala. And when you look at the documents from previous centuries of Jewish traders coming to Malabar coast, yeah, in the 12th century, 13th century, you see that many of them came to North Kerala. There was one Jew even living in Mangalore for almost 20 years, and he brought workers with him, and he had all kinds of connections and relations, and he narrates about his business partners. Some of them might be Jews, So there might have been communities in North Kerala, and this is attested in historical documents. The possibilities attested can be supported by historical documents, and this is attested in the really naive language that people still speak. They don't want to tell you about their history, but when they speak in their language, you can hear history in their language. So this is more or less what I have to tell you. Of course, there is a lot to tell. I don't want to bore you with too much linguistic details, but I would just recommend it is good to listen to the language, even if it is by uneducated people. It can always tell us more than we sometimes can gain from very educated people. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson.